Welcome back to The Big Issue on City 97.3 FM and also on CCTV Ghana. My name is Godfred Akoto-Boafo, discussing the Vice President's narrative of how Ghana ended up at the IMF and also the digitalization agenda. I spent the first hour of the program catching up with Dr. Patrick Asuming, an economist with the University of Ghana, Franklin Cudjoe, President of Imani Africa, and the Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhassan Saibu Suhini. He also, and in giving that speech at the Accra Business School, he spoke about solutions. And with that, I will start with Dr. Patrick Asuming, who has been looking at the solutions. Dr. Asuming, thank you for staying with us. Your thoughts on this first right of purchase that has been given to the Bank of Ghana. How critical is it? Is this something that is normal in practice?
Yes. Well, I think I was quite intrigued to see that idea, that the right of, the first right to purchase, and his logic is that, it's going to be used to secure future borrowing or some phrase like that. And
well, let me read it for you just to help you.
Yeah.
What he said. He says, ultimately, once we accumulate enough gold, future borrowing and our currency can be backed by gold. This will stabilize the cedi long term.
Yeah, I think that's a surprising thing to say.
Why?
It's because, if you want to stabilize the cedi long term, it is not, the cedi's problem is not a liquidity matter. The root cause is how much export you get versus how much import you are getting. If, we are producing the same quantity of gold and is bringing us a certain amount of foreign currency, whether it is going to be taken up, the central bank will have the right of first purchase, or it's going to be sold on the international market. It's not expected to change the amount of foreign currency we are getting. So let's get that clear. Then the issue is, we've been mining gold, and the key problems we've been discussing about what will solve the currency's problem is diversifying the export base and not trying to bring up some institutional arrangement about how it is purchased and how much we store or so on and so forth. I think if you don't broaden the base and diverse the base, we can't say that we solve the city's long-term problem. So for me, I don't see how that particular solution will hold. It might give some brief relief, but ultimately, if the variety of sources of export earnings haven't changed, I don't think that we solve the city's problem. So, diversifying the export base and also increasing our domestic production, starting with agriculture and then agro-based processing, to ensure that we do a fair amount of import substitution, so that we're able to save on some of the things that we can produce locally, that we are spending a hard-earned foreign currency to import. So, frankly, I'm not sure how that's going to solve our problem. But if I look at all the solutions provided in totality, it gives me worries that we still haven't gotten a handle on how we are going to resolve the economy's structural issues on the production side.
How so?
So the other thing he mentions is energy sector reform. Unfortunately, he didn't provide any details. Mm-hmm. The other thing he mentioned was deepening industrialization through value addition to gold and other mineral resources that we have. Mm-hmm. Well, that is great, but it's good to add the value from there. We have been told before that we are going to add value, and it hasn't happened. Perhaps if you are going to tell us we are going to do this, you will tell us why we couldn't do it the first time you said it, and what we do differently. But one thing we have to understand is this: when we are solving the structural problems, it comes with solving the long-standing issue about the economy creating enough jobs for the youth. If you even do more processing of our mineral resources, it is not going to create as much jobs as investing in improving agricultural productivity and converting that to agro-processing. When you do that, you are solving multiple problems, and some of the key problems: the production, the export, and the employment generation. So it's great if we say we are going to add value to our minerals. That's good, but it shouldn't be the be it all or do it all. It's because those sectors, the extractive sectors, don't really create as many jobs as going into agricultural production and agro-based processing. Then the other thing he mentioned was TVET. Well, TVET's investment to generate skills for industry. But we've been doing this for a long time. It's good to create a job, to develop the skills, but either the people who are being given the skills are being turned around to become job creators, or there's other means of creating jobs for those who have the skills. It's not just enough to say you are investing in TVET to create new skills. Then the other thing that he did mention was domestic revenue mobilization. Mm-hmm. And frankly, we have, earlier on in the speech, he explained how the new measures they've announced haven't yielded the revenue. So what is going to be new here? Can we get an explanation about why we still haven't done the exemptions, or why, the finance minister announced that, I think at the beginning of May or so, the common platform for the property rates would have been done. I wish that he would have provided us with an update on where we stand with those, to give us more comfort that the things that they've been announcing, they are actually doing it. So to simply raise them, and then the last part that I got was, he mentioned that there's a need to increase agricultural production. So, but this is a government that has Planting for Food and Jobs as flagship program. It's not enough to say that we need to increase agricultural production. You would have realized that before you brought in that program. What we want to hear is, what are the problems with the program that you have, and what new things are you going to do to ensure that the program is becoming a success and is delivering what is expected to deliver? So when I went through the list of what he said under the way forward, I was actually quite disappointed. I didn't think that, in terms of, if I look at how you transform our economy, yes, the IMF will give us, to some extent, the macroeconomic stability, but that is only a platform to build on. So I was hoping that he would tell us more specific things about what we are going to do to structurally transform the economy, which many of us know that is really where our long-term solution is. Unfortunately, what he gave, I didn't see any of that at all in it.
Interesting thoughts from Dr. Suming. Suhuyini, you also heard the Vice President and some of the solutions that he proposed. Your take on them, and then you can also bring in, because he links the way forward with his digitalization agenda, particularly when he talks about domestic revenue mobilization, for instance. He says it's key to self-reliance, but it must be done within the proper architecture. And that involves a significant digital agenda. So perhaps you can, he used that avenue to explain why he has been so intent or so focused on improving Ghana's digital architecture as a way of transforming the economy, at least.
Godfred, just like Dr. Suming has indicated, I was less than inspired by some of the proposed solutions. I mean, there's no denying the fact that digitalization is important, but very characteristic of Dr. Bawumia again, he ridiculously, likens it to especially the Ghana card being the, being mightier than anything else, when he says that with one Ghana, he will choose one Ghana card over, 1,000, interchanges.
But was that not an analogy to perhaps signify its potential importance once everything comes into play?
But it's a ridiculous analogy. I mean, it's a very ridiculous analogy. I mean, you do not discount the importance of one investment over the other in such simplistic terms. It is just a ridiculous one. And that is why I say it is, in character. I mean, I am not surprised because that's how ridiculous sometimes he gets with some of the analogies that he gives. For example, he gives the analogy also about a carpenter roof in a house. I mean, very ridiculous again. I mean, if I give a carpenter so many resources, so much, I'll expect that the carpenter will give me a job that can withstand tornadoes. For example, if a carpenter has just one oil field producing about 247 million, and I say, use that to build me a house and roof it. And then the carpenter doesn't have stabilization fund, sinking fund, the heritage fund. The carpenter doesn't have, 8 billion, Ghana cedis from ESLA. The carpenter doesn't have Bank of Ghana financing and all of that. And he builds me a house, and then there is a storm, and the house is affected. I will be upset, yes. But if I give another carpenter, about $1 billion from oil proceeds, I mean, from one oil well to 3 oil wells, $1 billion in 2019, $666 million in 2020. I mean, put it together, you are talking about billions of dollars, in 4 years. I give, that carpenter has stabilization fund, that carpenter has ESLA, giving him over 8 billion. That carpenter has Bank of Ghana financing. That carpenter gets a windfall as a result of even an unfortunate situation such as COVID. And then the carpenter still puts up a shoddy work that can be affected by, a tornado. I will question that carpenter. If you have so much, in fact, the Bible itself says that to whom much is given, much is expected. And so for him to again reduce it to such ridiculous analogies is just begging the point and missing it entirely. And you see, I think that it is time we call Dr. Bawumia out and let him understand that those days of politicking are over. Campaigning can be very exciting, but when the yogurt hits the fan, it is not a funny scenario at all. And so he must begin to take us more seriously. What I expected to hear from some of his proposed solutions included maybe some of the things that Franklin spoke about. How did they miss those very crucial and important targets? And why did they take us on such phantom projects, through the IPEP that has yielded no results, but has succeeded in just wasting, public funds? I mean, so in that regard, you would have, first of all, expected Dr. Bawumia to come across as a very apologetic person. I think that should be the face of the government moving forward. They must be very apologetic, in their utterances and in their actions. Then you would also expect that he would have announced some kind of moratorium on borrowing. Because just like the article you have shared, our problem is the furious or serious borrowing, whichever adjective you use is correct. And that is what has led us into this ditch. I liken it to a child who may have inherited so much from the parents without knowing the hard work that the parents put into, leaving behind such wealth, and just decided, because there was so much wealth, to go to town to, burden himself with all kinds of needless and reckless expenditure, only to realize that the inherited funds are being depleted. And then he goes on a borrowing because the parents worked hard to make sure that was the case. And, put himself in unimaginable debt, and has also blown away the wealth, and has now come face to face with the need to work hard. And so with that scenario, you'll expect a different kind of approach. You will expect the fun to leave their eyes. Like we say in Ghana, eye must clear. And they must begin to see that it took a lot of work to put together the wealth that they inherited, for which reason they could engage in all those frivolous activities that they engage in through the development authorities and such programs. So you will expect an apologetic phase. You will expect that they will stop the reckless borrowing. They will put a moratorium on the reckless borrowing. You will expect that most importantly, they will begin to think of how to restructure our debt. Because you see, the IMF alone is not going to do much for us without debt, reprofiling. If we do not reprofile our debts and restructure it, it is not going to the IMF intervention may not make the desired impact at all. You will also expect that they will begin to signal their intention to prioritize investments so that it is no longer, the kind of expenditure that the finance minister sits at the finance ministry and makes and prioritizes, the construction and designing of cathedrals as priority of priorities, pumping, huge sums of money in that direction when you have nothing to show. So they have to begin to prioritize or signal at least the intention to prioritize, investments. And that will perhaps give the market a certain signal that we are now, ready to do things right. And you will find people beginning to show that level of support. And trust me, when they signal that way, show that they are remorseful, show that they want to control borrowing, show that they are willing to restructure our debt, show that they are going to prioritize investment, some, revenue measures can then either be aggressively promoted or introduced. And with that attitude in context, you will have a buy-in. You will have, the citizens willing to support, to contribute to the, development of the state and the need for us to get out of this mess. Even as we recognize the fact that it is as a result of their recklessness and mismanagement that we are in the hole that we are in the first place. Because like I said, this government got so much going its way when it came into power. If the previous government did all that it did and achieved all that it achieved, including, introducing buffers, such as the stabilization fund, such as the ESLA fund, which, materialized or matured in their time and started yielding fruits and results in their time. And they also had the goodwill that they had from the general public. If they had utilized all of that very well, we should not have been in this current mess that we are in. But we are here today. And so it is time for them to begin to signal right and, show the intention to correct the wrongs. And I believe that they will get the cooperation and the buy-in of others for us to come out of this hole together. But to continue to blame the opposition for the mess and also blame Russia and Ukraine for the mess is denying the obvious. And that doesn't give confidence. It doesn't inspire confidence at all, because knowing your problem and showing the willingness to deal with the problem, it's about 50%, on the right path to dealing with the problem.
And just if you can spend a few minutes also on, perhaps this was one platform where he spent a lot of time to explain why his focus has been so intense on the Digitalization Center, where he talks about, in fact, he spends a whole table explaining the MPP's record of fixing problems with digitalization. And his entire paper is built around a digitalized economy, one where perhaps some of the problems that we are in now will be a thing of the past. For instance, because with digitalization, they can streamline revenue mobilization, they can streamline a lot of things. And he lists quite a couple of achievements. Do you walk away convinced by the digitalization agenda and the feats that it is chalking, the problems that it is solving, as outlined by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia?
Well, again, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia tried to reap where, he has not sown. Maybe he can take the credit. Yes, he can take the credit for, or his government can take the credit for keeping the farm, but not for sowing and for doing the land preparation. I mean, technology doesn't exist in abstract. You remember the Eastern Corridor fiber optic?
Yes.
And you remember the inroads that GIFEC made in the rural telephony under the previous administration, under the watch of Honorable Haruna Idrisu and Dr. Omani Boama. All the other things you add on to are based on that infrastructure that was laid. And that's why I'm saying that he is seeking to reap where he has not sown. He can be given credit, if there is any, for managing the farm that they inherited. I mean, for example, with the Ghana card, let's assess it properly. When they came into office, the National Identification Authority had already started issuing Ghana cards. Indeed, I have my card. I got mine. Not many Ghanaians at the time got it because they had some challenges with distribution. And you saw the video recently of the cards that they came to meet, which they allowed to, rot in their storerooms, which they are now disposing of. It was a 2D card, but hey, who tells you that the chip embedded card is the final in technology today? Who tells you that is the final in technology? So at the time, the 2D was the best technology, because the chip embedded one was being considered, but had not received worldwide introduction and acceptance. So the 2D was what was used, and people were being enrolled. All they needed to do was to expand and introduce the chip embedded one, because the 2D was to last for 10 years. And I think this is the 10th year. So there would have been a replacement method, because even with this chip embedded one, technology will improve again, and the chip embedded one will have to be improved, and it will have to be replaced. But in line with the, very partisanship way of building the nation and trying to position and posture as the only people who know it all and do it best, they decided to abandon what they came to meet, allow the cash to rot in the storeroom, so they will introduce a new technology altogether, which today is not also without problems. Yesterday, I was listening to your show, Godfred.
Yeah.
A number of people cannot have their cards. So assuming we have elections today, and then a new government is sworn in tomorrow, should that new government also, based on the problems that were shared on your show yesterday, abandon this chip one and begin a new one? It just doesn't make sense. But that is the nature of these people, and that is what they have done, and seek to claim credit entirely for it. Remember the instruction to all district chief executives to ensure that their, assemblies had the street names and the house numbering system under President Mahama. Remember, it was part of their assessment criteria, and we discussed it extensively in the media at the time. These were all programs and projects to promote and to prepare for the digital economy, the digitalization of the country. So these have been, and you cannot say it is just the NDC that also started it. I mean, even the National Education Authority may have also been put together by President Kufuor when he was in office. But what I am talking about is the need to continue with what other governments have started when they are good, and to give the credit where it is due. But yes, I mean, at the presentation, you had Dr. Bawumia speaking as if, the whole digitalization concept just fell from the skies from 2017 till date. And that, they met nothing, and they are continuing with nothing, and that they are initiating everything that will improve our digital economy. But that is not true. That is a lie. I just reminded you about the infrastructure that is even required for all of this digitalization to take place. You can even trace it back to the era when President Mahama was the Minister for Communications and expanded the communication space, bringing in MTN and others. But I'm saying that he sought once again to reap where he did not sow, but can be given credit. His government can be given credit for maintaining some of the good policies in terms of the digitalization that they came to meet. E-Parliament, e-governance, and all of that began long before 2017. And Dr. Bawumia must understand that they came to meet some of these things that they are continuing with. And that is why I started initially by saying that you cannot deny the importance of digitalization in today's world. You cannot deny that. But it is ridiculous to suggest that it is the high and mighty. It is more important than interchanges and what have you. It is not, a reasonable analogy to give.
All right, thank you very much. The Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alassane Saibu Suhuyini. Franklin, your take on the digitalization agenda as described by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He talks about the digital address system, talks about the Ghana card. Now you can travel with it as a passport, outlines several other achievements. It says cash dominance in payments has been reduced.
Again, he refused.
4.7%.
Again, he refused to accept the correction from the Foreign Ministry that it is not a digital passport. It is just a card. He refused that again from. So, whose truth at all would Dr. Bawumia listen to? Whose truth? When his finance minister tells him we don't pay 1 billion, annually for excess capacity charges, he refuses to take it and he continues to peddle the falsehood. When his foreign affairs minister tells him that the Ghana card is not a passport, he continues to peddle that falsehood. So whose truth at all will he take?
Franklin.
Well, that's interesting. Time again, I think these interventions are useful. We can't discount the fact that technology has indeed enabled development within the developing world and the developed world as well. But I just worry that the raft of interventions we are seeing on the technology front is not being in keeping with the procurement aspect of these interventions as well. And the reason why I say this is because, yes, it's good to procure digital systems. Mm-hmm. If you realize that we had decided to procure Kelny GVG in order to, as it were, monitor revenues. So as it were, the Vice President is intent on using technology to mobilize, generate a lot of revenue. But if you look at the other side of these interventions, which is essentially the procurement economy, which has been created as a result of these interventions, then you realize that these interventions do not balance out in terms of value for money. If you take Kelny GVG, for instance, $1.5 million we are paying up till now for a service whose value we've never seen. We've not seen a single report telling us exactly what has been the added value to our revenue mobilization efforts, right? Even the e-levy, which again is sort of counterproductive to the whole ecosystem of mobile money systems, because as you realize, e-levy hasn't generated the needed resources as we want. Even that was not procured properly. I mean, in terms of the monitoring of the e-levy receipts, you recall there were some challenges regarding the way the system that is supposed to monitor receipts were even procured. Take the GANEPS, for instance, the Ghana National Electronic Procurement Systems, for instance, which is to monitor all procurement systems in the country. That is a significant drawback. I mean, as we speak, we are having significant challenges because even the internal auditors who are supposed to have access to the platform to ensure that suspicious procurement gigs are not allowed, it's not being enabled. And we are losing millions of dollars, if not billions of cedis to the procurement economy. So the point I'm making is that we can be procuring these nice interventions, but at the end of the day, if you are procuring them at rates that do not make economic sense, you're actually just drawing the country back. So nothing negative to say about the interventions the Vice President is touting and actually shepherding. But I don't think he's in charge of the procurement aspect of all these interventions as well. But the procurement, there's some. Can you hear me, Godfrey?
Yes, I can hear you. Go on.
Right. So there's just mismatch between these interventions and the procurement aspect of these interventions, and I worry for his interventions. Even if you take property risk, which indeed is something they promised to undertake, there's been some significant challenge with the way the property rate systems, those who are supposed to ensure its implementation, have been procured. And there have been challenges not recently about the way that system is supposed to operate, right? So I fully support the digitalization agenda, but I'm looking at the net receipt of it. And there's one big elephant in the room, which is procurement, which is not allowing us to get the necessary benefit that we're supposed to generate. Now, back to the issue about the Bank of Ghana being supported, as it were, to purchase our gold.
Yes.
And all of that. I mean, on the surface of it, there may be nothing wrong with it. In fact, I see the Vice President's attempt to do so as a way of walking away from the likes of a Japan and the creation of its babies called the MIF and the GEADEC. Because you see, there's been a significant policy chaos or policy incoherence in that environment as well. If we are to monitor our our mineral export regime, it must coincide with proper policy making. You know our record with Japan. I mean, our stance on the Japan was not going to give value to Ghana's the idea to monetize Ghana's gold resources was not properly done because the value that is being assigned to the resources is not in keeping with what is currently at the rate. So maybe the Vice President is seeing something that we are not seeing in terms of suggesting that the Bank of Ghana should now be given the first right of right of purchase, right? The idea essentially is that if the purchases is likely to purchase at the right value, and then get those resources to shore up the economy. But there again, the challenge I have with that is that the Bank of Ghana can do all these monitoring and monetary systems, ensure that we get the right value. But what happens on the fiscal side, which the Vice President superintends, by the way, is also not it has to be questioned. But the fiscal side of the equation has been one of the reasons why we are in a mess right now. If the Bank of Ghana buys gold resources at the right value and tries to shore up the economy, and you go and borrow and engage in reckless, propaganda projects like IPEP and all of that, then the net effect would have been that we would have wasted all these efforts that we are trying to suggest the Bank of Ghana should undertake. And I can understand there's policy chaos when it comes to all our major three sources of revenue. The cocoa sector, there's a problem there. The Cocoa Board has never borrowed before. I mean, Cocoa Board's domestic borrowing has jumped to a 10-year high. If you look at the oil sector, there's a chaos in terms of the Eni Vitol deal with the local Ghanaian counterparts. So I can understand why the Vice President is coming on the back of that to suggest that, well, somehow we should give the Bank of Ghana the first right of purchase. Maybe at the right value, but at the end of the day, the value will be depleted because the fiscal side of the equation, which is where he superintends, if some of these lofty projects would be eaten away with bad procurement policies, and indeed the political elephants that will eat away all these resources. So I understand that these things should be done, but there must be a balancing act as well.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Franklin Cudjoe. Thank you very much, Alhassan Saibu Surini and Dr. Patrick Asum. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll head back to the Accra Sports Stadium to see what's new as the NPP gets ready to elect national officers. We'll be right back.
If you want me, Chamenizuka Gramuma Minasu. Lieutenant, tove. Drama, eh? for commercial break. Abba. Enjoy Road Drama and more on Go TV. Go TV.
Go TV.
My name is Gina, and this salon is where I work. Good morning to those who speak good English like I do. That's B, assistant madam, always cleaning boss.
Efia, so can't you sweep the place? Do you know what I went through last night? I had to uninstall the whole of the night, but I managed to be here today.
That's Efia. She's in the Guinness Book of World Records for giving the most excuses.
I am not missing any drama today.
Ow! You're burning my scalp!
Baby, I messed up again. Oh. My family witches. I'm sure they've located the salon. God bless you.
Hey, don't come and prophesy on me. That's Hannah, always acting religious.
I didn't see you on Sunday. I hope it's not about that gentleman. Is he cheating?
If he was just cheating, it wouldn't have been a problem.
He bought that foolish girl a car.
Sometimes you just have to figure out things you are doing or not doing right.
Especially with the bedroom things, maybe you're not doing it right.
Ask God for more styles.
Akramo is back. Look, today I have hip pad and buttocks pad.
You like this? Your buttocks is like my palm.
Which part of your body do they want?
I'm Gifty, the owner of this salon.
Good. Now that's our boss.
Hey! Last time the week we came to pick, you still haven't brought the money. Ask Gina, I paid her. She's all you know.
Even Ghana government does not know like this.
You've already met your new colleague, have you?
Are you straight?
No, I'm not. I'm crooked.
The Hairdressers, coming to you this August on City TV.
Taking a walk through a very long walk, but I'm up for it. And there's a reason for that. My guest today, he's a phenomenal man and somebody I've grown to admire very much in the short space of time that I've known him.
I enjoy jogging. I do it probably every day, if not every day, every other day.
So in Ghana, where do you usually jog?
Ghana,
of course, before COVID came.
No, even to date.
Okay.
The city of Accra provides very good opportunity for walkways. There are very many streets that you can walk easily and freely. They are very well paved and with cabro.
That's true.
So I'm able to do that, and of course in the evenings, not too late. It's fairly well late depending on the choice of area that you walk around. So I do a lot of that around cantonment.
Okay.
I think it speaks very well to your policies.
Thank you very
on,
much.
Food, going for food and jobs. And at the same time, of course, having to deal with matters of food security. I think this is fundamental, and each one of us has a role to play in order to feed our people and population. Of course, the food crops are the same in terms of maize, cassava, yams, but we have cash crop that coffee was doing very well during our days and time. We are trying to revive the industry. We have tea. So I have...
Of course, anyone who knows anything about Kenya knows that Kenyan tea is one of the... you have some of the best varieties in the world.
Wondering where to get all the trendy news on the automobile industry in Ghana? The Auto Showroom is your best bet.
Cars. Hello and welcome to the Auto Showroom, your #1 automobile show right here.
On the Auto Showroom, we bring you great insight and exciting conversations on automobiles.
So what it means is that in the next 5 to 10 years, Mercedes is probably going to give me a call.
The experts will share practical tips on how to maintain your automobile, check out latest innovations, offer consumer advice, as well as discuss vehicle capability.
So what are some of the noteworthy, pieces of information that one can pick up from it?
Whatever the vehicle is, whatever the design and everything, without the tires, it will never have contact with the road.
Speeding 50, 60, 100, 80 kilometers per hour. And all of a sudden, the car just going, cannot stop. So that it breaks, it cannot stop.
With the Auto Showroom, you are definitely in for something good.
Oh my God. Made a spin.
The Auto Showroom shows every Saturday at 2 p.m. only on City TV.
Welcome back to the big issue on City TV and also on City 97.3 FM, as we will now shift a lot more attention to the Accra Sports Stadium, where the NPP goes to the poll to elect national officers. But a couple of messages that have come through before I go back to the stadium to interact with some of my colleagues to catch up with some of the analysis on what we expect today. Good morning, Godfred. The Vice President is good at throwing misinformation out there. He should go back and listen to himself and see if he has any integrity left. He should spare us. After 6 years in government, you're still blaming the previous president. That is Jones Adoboy from La. And this one from Nene Intema says, will you blame the carpenter? In the first scenario, I'll blame the one who contracted the work carpenter. That's the government and the economic management team. In the second scenario, I will still blame the one who contracted the carpenter. If that person had contracted the right person to do a better geographical and structural analysis, a better structure would have been proposed, which will withstand the elements of the weather. The vice president needs political maturity because he doesn't seem to differentiate between national platforms and party platforms. Our leaders and their messing up of the economy. So we are stuck with this kind of leadership. This person is not very happy. Sorry. Well, quite a few also coming to us after 6 years. Government still blames the previous government for its mistakes. African leaders lack integrity and don't own up to their poor decisions. Incompetence has been exhibited all over. And this one says, okay, on this one it says, take note that Stephen Intim has served the party as first vice chairman and was part of those who acted rightly to secure the convincing win in the 2004 elections. On the basis of that achievement, his competence as the chairman is undoubted. So he's advocating for Stephen Intim to be elected. And this one says, good morning, Godfred. MPP claimed to have in position to have the men. Vice President Dr. Bawumia should for once spare us all the rhetoric and sit down and do some serious work. His jokes have become one too many. So this is definitely a very unhappy citizen at the moment. So I go back to the Accra Sports Stadium, where our own Hansen Ajaman and our senior political correspondent at the presidency, Samiri Afe, are seated, part of our team that is covering the NPP's national election of national officers. Samiri Afe, can you hear me, Sammy?
Hello, Godfred.
Yes. So I'm back with you. Has activity levels picked up at the election grounds?
Godfred, I can hardly hear you because of the noise in the background.
Asking,
but if you are asking about the start of the program or the delegates, as the party promised us that at 10 a.m. this whole program will start with the delegates arriving, that has not happened. As we speak, it's only ministers, deputy ministers and government appointees who are rather arriving in their numbers. But for the kingmakers, the delegates, we haven't seen them arriving at the Accra Sports Stadium as we speak. It's only a few of the government appointees and the ministers you can see here. But for the delegates proper, they have still not arrived at the Accra Sports Stadium as the party promised that by 10 a.m. this whole program will begin. As I speak to you now, it's about a quarter to 11. The program is yet to start. We've been asking questions from officials who are organizing this whole program, and they tell us that the delegates will be arriving here very soon. But as we speak, Godfred, we still have not seen the delegates in their numbers. Only government appointees, ministers, members of parliament are those who are arriving as we speak.
Well, I want to take a bit. I want to take a bit of a look at the race as it is settling out, and I will start with the obvious, the General Secretary race. Did we expect it to become such a tight race between the incumbent, John Boadu, and Justin Kodua Frimpong a few hours to the election? Was this what we were expecting?
Well, Godfred, for the general secretary position, that's what almost all the bookmakers are looking at, because there's a tight race between Justin Kodua and the incumbent John Boadu. Now, a lot of people who are on the side of John Boadu say that this is the general secretary who brought the party to power in 2016, then as acting general secretary after the suspension of Kwabena Japan. So he brought the party to power in 2016. He managed to retain the party in power as general secretary and director of operations for the 2020 election. He was able to retain the party in power and then seeking re-election. So many people credit him for these two successes, 2016 and 2020. But those who are against him, their argument is that when the party came to power in 2016, the margin was over 1 million. Now in 2020, it is slashed by half. Now they believe that as a general secretary who is on top of his game, the party should rather increase votes instead of having votes diminish. But the argument from the camp of John Boadu has been that every incumbent government going into an election will obviously lose votes. And the defense they've been making is that some government policies which were identified very unpopular with the Ghanaian people also caused the party to lose more seats in parliament and more votes. They talk about the Galamsey fight the government initiated, the banking crisis or the cleanup in the financial sector the government introduced. The supporters of John Boadu will say that was a policy of a government, not a policy of the party. And so if such a policy of a government goes to affect the party, they should not be blamed for it. Now the supporters of Justin Kodua also say that it is about time they get a new face to run the affairs of the party as general secretary. And as you know, the general secretary is the CEO of the political party. The day-to-day administration of the party is on the shoulders of the general secretary. And so having a general secretary, a new general secretary with fresh blood, fresh ideas, fresh vision, they believe that will go a long way to help the party break the AIDS as the party is seeking to do in the 2024 election. So they believe Justin Kodua is young, he's a youth, he's exuberant, he has a lot of ideas, a lot of experience. It is about time you bring in a fresh blood like Justin Kodua, who will be in a position to more or less change the face of the party and bring all this fresh blood in it. So that has been the argument for and against the two candidates. But for those who are against Justin Kodua, the argument is that he's too new. He doesn't have experience when it comes to party politics. The only position he's held as a former youth organizer in the Ashanti region, and so he doesn't have that experience, that gravitas to run a general secretary position in the party office. My colleague Hansen Ajiman has also been doing some work with these two candidates on how they will fare come today's election.
Well, let me talk to Hansen if Hansen can hear me.
The general secretary race was always going to be an important one in this case because the general secretary is the only full-time employee of the party and also is a chief administrator of the party. So good or bad will come to the doorstep of the general secretary. And if we take a look at the history or the processes for which when the poll started from the polling station level to the electoral area to the constituency level, there were instances where a number of people wanted to change their executives because the party didn't perform well. And so even the Greater Accra region, in a number of constituencies, a lot of incumbents lost. So even at that level, you got the sense that the delegates or party members were looking out for some level of change, if I can put it that way, in how things are done in the party. So for me, it's been clear that anybody at all who is able to make himself a winnable candidate will be able to give John Boadu a keen contest, and it wasn't going to be an easy one as he had it in 2020, where literally it was just a passage of some form of vote of confidence on him to continue. And again, because the NPP is seeking to break the 8, which will make it the first political party in the Fourth Republic to govern more than 8 years consecutively, you would expect that for a position like the General Secretary, a lot of people will be interested in it. And I think that the position has, the context has been interesting and good so far. 5 candidates have put up themselves. We've narrowed it to 2 people, Kodia, and of course we've talked about Kodia, and a former national youth organizer, a former youth organizer in the Ashanti region.
Hansen,
the boss of
Hansen.
YEA. Godfrey.
Yes. Let's stick with that point you just made on Justin Kodia being a former youth organizer in the Ashanti region. Samiri Afi also raised that in the case for his lack of experience as just being what he has done. But could that also not be the advantage he holds today? Because if you look at the power blocks, the voting numbers, the Ashanti region has a significant chunk of the delegates. Does that not play into his hands?
That really has pushed him ahead of the other 4 contenders who are competing against John Boadu for that position. And for me, the fact that he traces his political roots back to the Ashanti region has given him the edge. And because we know the Ashanti region is the vote basket of the NPP, and a lot of decisions that are taken in the NPP cannot be taken without the input of key stakeholders from the Ashanti region. So first, the fact that he's been a former youth organizer, and at that time he knows a lot of people at that young age who by now have grown into the party in the region and into different fields and have stakes in the party. It is one that has made him more appropriate, if I can put it that way, than the other 4 contenders, and that's why a lot of people, a lot of polls have tipped him to be one of the leading candidates in this contest. But beyond this also, you have to look at the nitty-gritty of it. And the point is that somebody like Chairman Wontumi is supporting John Boadu.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people picked sides way before even the regional polls. So, for people who were on the side of Chairman Wontumi, you would think that these people would want to align with John Boadu. And those who were against Chairman Wontumi would then want to align with a candidate who will give Chairman Wuntumi's candidate at the General Secretary level a tough race. And that's what I think that has deepened the sort of support Justin Kodia Frimpong has. So beyond the fact that he traces his political roots to the Ashanti region, the fact that there's a divided front on who to support, and a lot of people, by virtue of the fact that they didn't want Chairman Wontumi and do not want to associate with any kind of support he gives to anybody, that has also deepened the sort of support that he has. So, and as I earlier indicated, if you have the Ashanti region, it is very likely that it can flow to other regions, and of power will be able to at least convince other people in other regions, and I think that it might go on to the benefit of JFK. But as to whether or not he will really win the race is another one. Just 2 days ago, second vice chairpersons of some regions, like in the Greater Accra region, in the Volta region, endorsed JFK. When John Boadu was picking up his form, the 16 chairmen across the country also endorsed John Boadu. So you can see that level of support. All of them have very strong support base.
But Hansen,
we'll come to what
But Hansen, there are reports that Central Regions Chairman Kutin is in the camp of Justin Kodua Frimpong. Is there any truth to that?
Well, that is what we are picking, and that's what I said when John Boadu picked when John Boadu was launching his campaign. The 16 regional chairmen, either through their representatives, were at the launch of the campaign to support him. So it is not surprising that Chairman Kutin so for Chairman Kutin, at the end, his election was held some days before, after the entire regional elections were held. And we cannot go into reasons why he's not supporting John Boadu. But for most of the regional chairmen, they were at the launch of John Boadu's campaign to support him. But of course, and Godfrey, you understand that politics is about interest. And sometimes when interests align, people tend to shift away from what other people are doing. But what we know is that a number of the regional chairmen have put in their support for John Boadu. A number of party stalwarts, like Professor Maikwe, have also put in their support for John Boadu. And we know that some second vice chairpersons of the party in various regions have also done the same for JFK. So the point I'm making is that there's that sort of divided support for the two leading candidates that perhaps you are not seeing for somebody like Musa Superior. You are not seeing same for somebody like Frederick Opari Ansan, and you are not seeing same for Ramsia Ajeman Prempe, and it will all boil down to last minute tactics. What they were able to do yesterday when all delegates arrived in Accra, and what they'll be able to do, the sort of whipping they'll be able to do during the casting of ballots, and when delegates finally arrive at the conference ground to cast their ballots.
All right, Samir Rafe, let me just get your opinion on whether there is an establishment candidate here, and fingers will point at John Boadu being the incumbent, might likely be the establishment candidate, that is the candidate of the government or those at the top. But sometimes you might have a situation where there is a candidate who might not be an incumbent, who is an establishment candidate. Do we have feelings of any such things being at play where the establishment favors somebody? Sam, if you can hear me, if not, yeah, Hansen, go on.
Go for it. So, if you talk about the establishment candidates in a political party, they are obviously going to be favorites for who in particular is having the backing. But I can confidently tell you that John Boadu has the backing of the Jubilee House. Confidently tell you that John Boadu has the support of the Jubilee House. The president is supporting the candidature of John Boadu and other senior ministers in government. If you know very well, during the launch of John Boadu's campaign, the director of operations at the Jubilee House, Lokome, was at the campaign launch. He spoke very well of John Boadu and told the gathering present why it will be important for the MPP to retain or maintain John Boadu as the general secretary of the MPP. He spoke about how John Boadu has gone through the mill from police station executive, constituency executive, was a member of the youth wing of the party, became a youth organizer, a deputy director of communications, became national organizer, acting general secretary, and general secretary now. So Lokome spoke very well of him and said that this is the kind of person who will be able to lead the MPP going into the 2024 election to break the age. So if the director of operations at the Jubilee House is endorsing the candidature, then you should know that he has the backing of the big wigs. Not him alone. Mr. Fedowari, who works at the office of the vice president, was also at the campaign launch and spoke very well of Mr. John Boadu. The outgoing national chairman, Freddie Blake, was also at the campaign lodge, spoke very well of John Boadu. So if you have the backing of all these big wigs within the party, as I will put in, supporting your candidature, then you know where your support is coming from. Also, as Hansen said, you have the regional chairman all endorsing him. And the information you're also picking is that the regional chairmen are shipping all their delegates also in line to support John Boadu. So if you have, for instance, the regional chairman for Ashanti region, Wuntumi, supporting him, the information is that he is whipping in line all the executives within the Ashanti region. I mean, delegates who are constituency executive, shipping all of them in line to support the candidature of John Boadu. On the other hand, for the camp of Justin Kodia, we are the first chairs of the regions are also throwing their weight behind Justin Kodia, because they believe that if the regional chairmen are taking sides, they are also going to take sides. With the exception of the central regional chairman Kutin, who has openly declared his support for Justin, there's no other regional chairman who is supporting. But the information we are picking is that the reason why Chairman Kutin is supporting the candidature of Justin is that there's sort of bad blood between him and John Boadu. Chairman Kutin had accused John Boadu of orchestrating moves to get him not elected as regional chairman. So there's more or less like a bad blood between the two. And you know, John Boadu takes his route from the central region.
Yes.
He is from the Asin area, Asin Fosu to be precise. So there's more or less a bad blood between John Boadu and Chairman Kutin. That's why Chairman Kutin is not supporting. But aside that, the regional secretary, Techi, is supporting John Boadu. He was at his campaign lodge when John Boadu came to officially file his nomination. All the executives, majority of the regional executives in the central region were present, with the exception of Chairman Kutin. So there's this bad blood. And you know, in politics, if there's bad blood among candidates, you expect them not to show faces in the critical areas. So that's the reason why Kutin is not supporting. But then we are aside these two candidates, we are leaving out the other candidates who are also gunning for the race.
Yeah, I was coming to that.
A lot of people not seem.
Hold on,
a lot of people not seem to be talking about him.
Calm down. I wanted to deal with the favorites first, and then ask the question that you are just raising. Frederick Opare-Ansah, very prominent name in MPP circles, and Musa Superior used to be MCE of Tamale, and then Ramsey Ajiman-Prempeh. Of these other names, we would say that Frederick Opare-Ansah and Musa Superior, or Idrisu Musa as he's known properly, should have made much more of a fight of this. Why are they not emerging as much as they should, based on the reputations that they have within the party?
Godfrey, let's take Musa Superior for a start. You know, Musa became very unpopular in Tamale when he was the mayor. You get to Tamale and party people feel very aggrieved about his tenure when he was mayor in Tamale. He made a lot of enemies, which is publicly known. And so even the Tamale area where he's coming from, he doesn't have the support of the majority of the MPP delegates in that area. Across the country, on his campaign, he says the current leadership is incompetent because they did not make proper gains for the party in the 2020 election. They believe that the good works of Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP, I mean President Akufo-Addo, Nana Akufo-Addo and the party could have won more votes in the 2020 election. So he accuses them of being incompetent, and that he is going to change the face of the party when he becomes the general secretary. He's talking about data. He says that the current leadership can't produce a data of the party, and said that the MPP has, let's say, this figure of members. If you ask, he threw a challenge to John Boadu that if you ask John Boadu now how many supporters or how many members, card-bearing members of the MPP has now, he will not be able to tell the members the party has. So it's a mark of incompetence, and that if he's giving the general secretary position, he's going to change that particular aspect, and he'll be able to put a figure on the members of the MPP across the country. So that has been his campaign. The current leadership is incompetent. He's going to change the face of the party, And because the media is not giving him the hype, a lot of people feel that his campaign is not really flying when it comes to this internal election. Let's take Frederick Opare-Ansah. His campaign launch happened in Takoradi in the Western region. His main message is that the current leadership, as Musa has been saying, the current leadership is incompetent. Take them out, bring new leadership. And he, as General Secretary, will be the face of the party who will be able to change things. His slogan is "Answer is the answer." That's his slogan. Frederick Opare-Ansah is the answer to MPP's problems. And that for him, the party has deep cracks. The party has divisions. He will bring all the factors together, especially as the party prepares to elect new candidates for the 2024 election, both parliamentary and presidential. He prides himself as someone who is a former member of parliament. He knows the ins and outs of parliament. He can use his position as a former deputy whip for the party to make things better for the party in parliament. He says for now there's clear division in the MPP majority in the House. And so if he's given the nod as the General Secretary, he uses long experience as a former member of parliament for the Suwu constituency to make parliament strong as far as the MPP is concerned. So he has also been flying around. But then what many people use against him, the allegation is that he tilts towards a particular camp. Many people accuse Opare-Ansah of being an Alan person, of supporting the presidential bid of Alan Kyerematen. And so a lot of people who are not supporting him or who are against him say that if he's given a chance to be the General Secretary, he will work things out to make Alan Kyerematen the flag bearer instead. So that is what people are really using against him, because they believe he tilts towards that side of Alan. So that's why a lot of people are using against him. But openly, he's not said which camp he belongs. He's never said whether he belongs to the Alan camp or the Bawumia camp or the Ejaku camp or the Jogate camp or Akoto or whose camp. He hasn't publicly said that. But people believe that because of his long association with Alan, he will obviously work things and tilt towards the side of Alan Kyerematen. So that has been what people use against Frederick Opare-Ansah in his campaign.
All right, let me move quickly to the chairmanship race, which has also come down to a tight race between Asabi, as he's popularly known, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, Stephen Ayesu in team. It's a battle of the Stephens, and George Kwabena Abankwah-Yeboah. Hansen, what are you picking up a few hours to the race? Have the dynamics changed? We knew Stephen Ayesu in team was the favorite. Has Stephen Asamoah Boateng caught up to make it more of a race?
So, well, the race is the race, as you rightly indicated, is between the two Stephens, Stephen Asamoah Boateng and Stephen Ayesu in team, with George Abankwah-Yeboah also coming up in there somewhere because of his role as treasurer of the NPP. A number of people think that he played his role well as treasurer of the NPP, where he was able to mobilize funds for campaigns, and a lot of people think that he, by virtue of being able to mobilize funds as a treasurer, will be able to do so as the chairman of the party. And a lot of people think that if you really want to do party politics, and even sometimes if you want to be flag bearer of a major political party, you should, one, either have the funds, or two, have the means of raising the funds. So for a lot of people, they think that if Abankwah-Yeboah has been able to do this as a treasurer, given the mandate as a chairman where he's able to coordinate all aspects of the party will be better positioned in terms of resources. But regardless of this message, it's still a two-man race between the person of Stephen Ayesu in team and Stephen Asamoah Boateng. Of course, Stephen Ayensu in team because of the fact that he's been a serial contender of this post for more than a decade, having contested 4 times, lost all. This will be his 5th time. And a lot of people think that he's shown fidelity to the NPP. They think that he has actually stayed true to the cause, even though he's lost all 4 previous bids. And a party like NPP, when a number of times the word out there is that you have to wait for your time and you have to let people take up positions in terms of the certain form of tradition they ascribe to and the kind of service they have given to the party. It is not surprising that he's getting that sort of support. And somebody like Gabi Ochredako, who is a leading member of the NPP, he has predicted that Intim is going to win. And also, some days ago, he shared a post that he made in 2018 when Stephen Intim gave his concession speech, and he indicated that the sort of speech and assurances that Intim gave with respect to his support to the party despite losing, if he keeps true to that, 2024 or 2022, which we are in, will be his to be the leader of the party. So it is not surprising. But Asamoah Boateng is really giving him a good chase for his money. And for Asamoah Boateng, of course, former director of SIGA, former information minister, former MP, he and his supporters think that he's done it all. He's been through parliament. He's been through the corporate world. He's been in the executive itself. And so he knows what happens in there. And he has that level of experience to push the party into 2024. And for the team of Asabi, their point is very simple, that 2024, what the NPP is seeking to do is not one that you only need a chairman that will go into the board meeting or that will go into an executive committee meeting, strategize, sit in Accra, and wait for the organizer, the general secretary, and the special wings to go and execute the strategy that they've come up with. They think that you need a chairman who is a grounds-on person, a chairman who can actually move into the communities, move into every aspect of the country and convince people. They think that you need an energetic chairman, and that is the sort of personality that they are pushing Asabi to be. And it appears to be selling, but of course, as to whether it will sell ahead of Intim's message of having been supportive to the party and having been there for this position all this while, is one that we will find out some hours to come. But it's been an interesting race so far. Because there's no incumbent in this case, the two of them, and even by extension, the other 5 candidates have really not been pushing a positive campaign on what they can do and not been attacking their opponents. But one thing that I've realized is that the 2 candidates and the other 5 have also been pushing a campaign of unity. And this is with history on their side, because they think that with what happened in 2008, after their internal elections and after choosing a flag bearer from 17 candidates, the party was so divided and was reason they couldn't win the 2008 election. So this time around, a number of them, even those who previously were either aligned to the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo camp or the Alan Kyerematen camp, and in extension the Kufuor camp, have sought to indicate that even though they identify in that way, they are seeking to push a unity campaign and that they are there for everybody. And that's one key or salient thing that we are picking up in their campaign so far. Yesterday, a number of them, per our sources with their campaign teams, We're at the UPSA hostel where delegates are, and other hotels and hostels in Accra where delegates are being camped and engaging them. And even this morning, delegates are here to arrive, and they are still there, according to what our sources are telling us, at least trying to reinforce their message and trying to ensure that the delegates agree with them, and when they come to the Accra Sports Stadium, they will indeed really vote for them.
Now, Sammy, let me just ask you this before I move on to the other positions. With regards to the national chairman, we have Professor Mayor Kumfi and Akwesi Osei-Ajay, and then Gifty Asantwaye, also known as Davi Ama, also contesting this race. Is this one of the races where we can officially list as too close to call? Because Hansen talks about Stephen Ayesu team being a slight favorite, Stephen Asamoah Boateng being there. But this is also the first race where I've seen other outlets not being unanimous on who is the favorite. And in fact, the Daily Graphic, for instance, lists George Kwabena Bankwa-Yeboah as their favorite.
Well, Godfred, there's a two-horse race between the two Stevens, no doubt about that. The rest are just going to add up to the numbers. George Bankwa-Yeboah, who is the incumbent, as Hansen said, the incumbent national treasurer of the party, is really not going to make any impact. He will come maybe the third force, but then it's basically going to be between the two Stevens. Davi Ama, as we used to call her, or as they still call her, the only female among the candidates, happens to be the former national treasurer of the party. When Peter McMenu, Nano Hininto, was general secretary, Peter McMenu was national chairman, and she was the treasurer of the party. Aside, after the MPP lost the 2008 election, a little was heard of her until recently when she resurfaced to become the national chairperson of the MPP. And then you talk about the former foreign affairs minister, Akwesi Osei-Ajay. I happened to interview him when he officially declared his candidature. He told me that he's coming in to change the face of the party, but when you look through very well, his campaign has seen little impact, and so he's one of the people I would consider just adding up to the numbers. And then it was Aiko too until he withdrew from the race. So it's a straight fight between the two Stevens, and then any of the two will win the day by the time the voting ends. But a lot of people are tipping Stephen Ayesu team, as Hansen said. The MPP believes in tradition. The MPP believes in timing. So a lot of people believe Stephen team time as soon. The time is out for him, because if you know, girlfriend, this will be the 5th time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that he is contesting the position of national chairman. And he told some close associates that all his life, all he wants to be is national chairman of MPP. When he's able to become national chairman of MPP, he has fulfilled his long-time ambition. That is all he wants to be. So, in his rounds, a lot of people feel more or less like sympathy for him. That Stephen Team Abre, let's give him an opportunity to get the nod and become the national chairman. But Stephen Asamoah Boateng, on the other hand, is not a pushover. His message has been simple. He has two messages. The first one is about the welfare of the party, where there's going to be a welfare scheme that will take care of party members in the event of any disaster or any eventuality. The second aspect of his campaign is what he calls 60-40. Now he says the 60-40 is going to be this way. He feels that over the years, when a presidential candidate becomes the president in an election, appointments are made, or people are given appointments. People who didn't work for the party are given appointments. He says that people will be living in the US and the America, and then all of a sudden they'll be brought down to occupy ministerial position. He said under his tenure as national chairman, that is not going to happen. The 60-40 is that the presidential candidates will be asked to sign a contract with the party leadership that when you become president, 40% of your appointment will come from party members. grassroots members, constituency executives, regional executives, and national executives. They are going to occupy 40% of all appointments. Ministers, deputy ministers, DCEs, CEOs, and the rest. And then 60% will be given to the presidential candidate to appoint persons he feels will be competent enough to occupy the various positions. And he said, as national chairman, he will insist that this particular thing is done. The 60-40. That has been his campaign message. And it looks like delegates are gradually buying into this particular message of Stephen Asamoah Boakye, because those delegates feel that when a party wins power, they are neglected, they are forgotten of. So if someone is coming with such an idea of 60-40, they are going to support it. So it's a tough race, and it will be difficult to call as at now. So by 6 p.m., as the party said, which from the look of things is not going to happen, because Godfred, the program has not even started. It's a quarter to 12, some few minutes to 12, and the program has not even started. The delegates have not even arrived. So the 6 p.m. that the party is talking about may not, or is not, or would never happen. This may travel into Sunday. And so by dawn of Sunday, that's where we will know who the new leaders of the NPP are. But then for the chairmanship position, it's a tough call. And I can say with all certainty that it's going to be a fight for the Stevens.
All right. Just before I move on to the national organizer and others, the final point you just made, based on your experience of covering these conferences and elections, when delegates begin to delay, like the arrival of delegates begins to delay like this, does it portend a shift of some sort, or it means there's some last-minute politicking? What normally accounts for a delay in the arrival of delegates? Because they should be there by now. What is keeping them?
Godfred, there are a number of factors. They may say it's traffic. They may also say that they are organizing themselves to come. They may also say that there is some last-minute handshakes going on in their various hotels, or perhaps they are now getting ready to visit the ground. So there may be several factors. Traffic may be a consideration. And so for now, since we are not there with them, we may not be in a position to really tell what is causing it. But then, as my experience over the years covering such events, I can tell you on authority that there are some last-minute handshakes going on in their various hotels. And when these handshakes are done, all of them will come here. So they believe this is cocoa season for them. If anybody understands politics very well and they say cocoa season, you know what I mean.
Certainly. Let's look at the national organizer position. And I'll come to you, Hansen. The position of national organizer, two-horse race between a former member of parliament, Daniel Nii Kwate Titus Glover, and Henry Nana Boakye, with outsiders being Bright Isilfi Kumi, Seth Edward J. Eric Amwaku Chum, and Nana Owusu Fodjo. Your take on the national organizer race, Hansen?
Well, let me start with Henry Nana Boakye.
Okay.
You know, he's the incumbent national youth organizer.
Yes.
He's moving on to become the national organizer. He wants to move in the footsteps of Samuel Oku, a man he calls his boss. You know, Samuel Oku was the national youth organizer and then moved on to become the organizer proper. So Nana B wants to put his foot in where Samuel Oku is going. His campaign has been flying. He's getting a number of endorsements. Samuel Oku has publicly endorsed the candidature of Nana B as the next national organizer. Samuel Oku has almost endorsed all his colleagues, national officers who are seeking re-election. So he endorsed John Boadu, he endorsed Madam Asobaire, he endorsed Nana Boakye also. According to him, these are colleagues he worked with. And so if anything at all, these are the people he must support to be re-elected as officers. So Nana B seems to be the man of the moment as of now, because a lot of people are rooting for him. They consider his exploits as youth organizer to be a big of achievement for him, and so they believe that moving from the national youth organizer to the organizer position is the best call for him. Titus Nite Glover, a former deputy minister of transport, a former member of parliament, he is also in the race. A lot of people are rooting for him. They consider him to be a vibrant person, young individual who has the party as heart. He has the organizational ability to make things better for the NPP. And Godfrey, you know that when you are the national organizer of the NPP, you are more or less like the operations person for the party. So aside the general secretary, where you are the CEO, the organizer is the more or less like operations manager of the party. So you have a lot of wings under you. The national organizer has the national youth wing under him. You have the women's wing under you. You have the Nasara wing under you, and then the youth wing under you. So all the wings within the party are under you. So you are more or less considered the operations person of the party. So it's a very, very important position within the party. And Titus, from his campaign and what a lot of people have told me and what observers have said, is also making inroads. And indeed, it's going to be a two race between Titus Glover and Nana B. Eric Chum, from the beginning, a lot of people tipped Eric Amaku Chum. Yeah. But then getting to the latter part of the campaign, his campaign isn't flying. From the reports I'm getting across the country, it doesn't look that good. It doesn't look that good for Eric Chum. But then, hey, this is MPP. As the late Sir John said, you fear delegates. And then for the other candidates, Nana, he happens to be a former organizer for the the Klole Kote constituency, where Adabraka is located. Now, many people don't know him. A lot of people don't know him. When you call the regions to find out who this individual is, a lot of people don't know him. His base is in Adabraka and Asalam Down, because when you move within those enclaves, you see his billboards and his banners in those places. So within that setup, that's where he's only known. Across, I'm not sure he has even toured the entire length and breadth of this country. So he's an individual I would consider is just making up the numbers for this particular race. So the two individuals who are in this race is between Titus Glover and Harry Nana Boakye. I'm sure Hansen will add a few to it.
Hansen, are you expecting an upset?
He's also a former youth organizer for the Greater Accra region, but he did so about some 8 years ago, and even within the Greater Accra region itself, he seems to not have his base as usual, because we are very well aware that the incumbent youth organizer of the NPP in the Greater Accra region, Moses Abo, is even not in his camp. However, of course, it's an election, and a number of people have their own strategies and how they want to go ahead with this. But as Sami indicated, this race is one that we're going to see between Henry Nana Boakye and Titus Glover, with Eric Amaku Chum because of the initial works he has done. So between these three persons, and for Henry Nana Boakye, he's campaigning on something he did 4 years ago when he sought to replace Sami Ewuku as the youth organizer of the NPP. And a lot of people think that, to his credit, he's kept the youth wing in shape. He's done well for himself, and he's at least justified his mantra, perfect replacement. And so he's going on another perfect replacement, and that campaign seems to be flying on the face value of it. So we are expecting and hoping to see what will happen. But Titus Glover, as we all know, former MP for Tema East. A lot of people call him MP3, won his election with 3 votes. And he says he has the requisite skills and knowledge to organize the NPP into 2024. And for him, he says, having been an assembly member in Tema East in the late parts of the 1990s, being a presiding member in the early part of the 2000s, having joined the campaign of President Akufo-Addo in 2008 and even in 2014, he thinks that he is the best man for that particular job. He prides himself as one of the best communicators of the NPP, and he seems to be having a lot of support and base campaigning throughout the length and breadth of the country. However, there's one stiff campaign which seemed to be targeting Nana B, and this is by Bright Esilfi Kumi. Bright has done his politics in the US, and then he came down in 2018 to contest National Youth Organizer. According to him, when the Nana B camp in 2018 saw that he was a force to reckon with, they convinced him to
Okay, so we are back in Adabraka, but we'll keep you in the Accra Sports Stadium, or the Accra Sports Stadium, as we follow the election of national officers. Have been trying to do some analysis with my colleagues Samiri Afi and Hansen Achman. Have gone through the positions of vice chairperson, general secretary, chairperson, national organizer as well. We just had a few more to go through, but like we were saying, really big day for the New Patriotic Party. Could be the day where a lot of things change, or could be a day where things stay the same. Everybody keeping an eye on the 2 key races for the General Secretary, where it looks like John Boadu and Justin Kodia Frimpong are the 2 favorites. According to Samiri Afi, the establishment candidate is John Boadu. Justin Kodia Frimpong seems to be the dark horse in there, bringing in a breath of fresh air for the chairmanship race. Stephen Ayesu in team, who's contesting his 5th race, has lost 4 times and feels this is the right time. Stephen Asamoah Boateng, former SIGA boss, former member of parliament, long-time member of the party, and then George Kwabena Bankwaya-Boa, who has spent his time raising money for the party and looking after the party's money, who also feels it's time that he's elevated to lead the party as national chairman. In all, we're expecting some numbers place it at 6,730 delegates, some place it around 7,000 plus delegates, but give or take, it will be a significant number of delegates at the Accra Sports Stadium. The Electoral Commission, as per Section 17, Article 2 of the Political Parties Law Act 574, will be conducting this particular election, and we will be with you both on television and on radio until a winner winners in this case are announced in the various races. We're going to look at the 7 candidates who are also vying for the position of the National Nasara coordinator. Always an interesting one, Abdul Aziz Haruna Futa, facing a stiff challenge from Haruna Maiga. Other contestants are Abdul Rahman Diallo, Isaka Muazu Kunata, Awal Mohammed, Suleiman Al-Hassan Atakbo, and Haruna Ishmael. And for the women's organizer, it's a 3-woman race with incumbent KJ Mfoa. She's been tipped as the heavy favorite, but she is facing a stiff challenge from Ellen Amadakon and Hajia Sawadatu. So these are some of the races that are happening. And like I said, City TV, City FM will be with you, providing in-depth analysis and updates, interviews with all the leading personalities from the Accra Sports Stadium. This is the big issue, but also election center sort of today with me, Godfred Akoto. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
My name is Gina, and this salon is where I work. Good morning to those who speak good English like I do. That's B, assistant madam, always cleaning boss.
Efia, so can't you sweep the place? Do you know what I went through last night? I had uninstalled the whole of the night, but I managed to be here today.
That's Efia. She's in the Guinness Book of World Records for giving the most excuses.
I am not missing any drama today.
Ow! You're burning my scalp!
Baby, I messed up again. Oh. My family witches. I'm sure they've located the salon.
God bless you.
Hey, don't come and prophesy on me. That's Hannah, always acting religious.
I didn't see you on Sunday. I hope it's not about that gentleman. Is he cheating?
If he was just cheating, it wouldn't have been a problem. He bought that foolish girl a car.
Sometimes you just have to figure out things you are doing or not doing right.
Especially with the bedroom things, maybe you're not doing it right.
Ask God for more styles.
Akramo is back. Look, today I have hip pad and buttocks pad.
You like this? Your buttocks is like my palm.
Which part of your body do they want?
I'm Gifty, the owner of this salon.
Good. Now that's our boss.
Hey! Last time the week cab came to pick, you still haven't brought the money. Ask Gina, I paid her.
She's all you know. Even Ghana government does not know like this.
You've already met your new colleague, have you?
Are you straight?
No, I'm not. I'm crooked.
The Hairdressers, coming to you this August on City TV.
Taking a walk through a brie, very long walk, but I'm up for it. And there's a reason for that. My guest today, he's a phenomenal man and somebody I've grown to admire very much in the short space of time that I've known him.
I enjoy jogging. I do it probably every day, if not every day, every other day.
So in Ghana, where do you usually jog?
Ghana,
of course, before COVID came.
No, even to date.
Okay.
The city of Accra provides very good opportunity for walkways. There are very many streets that you can walk easily and freely. They are very well paved and with cabro.
That's true.
So I'm able to do that, and of course in the evenings, not too late. It's fairly well late depending on the choice of area that you walk around. So I do a lot of that around cantonment.
Okay.
I think it speaks very well to your policies.
Thank you very
on,
much.
Food, growing for food and jobs. And at the same time, of course, having to deal with matters of food security. I think this is fundamental, and each one of us has a role to play in order to feed our people and population. Of course, the food crops are the same in terms of maize, cassava, yams, but we have cash crop that coffee was doing very well during our days and time. We are trying to revive the industry. We have tea. So I have...
Of course, anyone who knows anything about Kenya knows that Kenyan tea is one of the... you have some of the best varieties in the world.
Regardless of what your point of view may be, he holds a mirror for you to see the reflection of reality.
2 young men, brilliant student, best student in his school. He says, I believe in this as my identity, my religion. You say no. You won't take him because it breaks discipline. I think we should not be at the wrong side of history.
Dispassionate opinions that shape your point of view.
As for the president's credibility in terms of anti-corruption, I'm afraid to say it's in tatters.
An analytical and non-partisan
I'll give you
point
a proverb,
of view.
and I can proverb. This year, forget it.
Dialogue that informs your socio-political point of view.
I'm young enough to wait for God's opportunity tomorrow, and I'm not in a haste.
Are you lacing your boots for 2024?
Absolutely not.
They are not lacing. What time you see the shoe I've been wearing? Whether they are even boots? No, it's not Kambu.
A chance for the duty bearers to provide the citizens with an honest point of view.
We are being given rare and privileged access to a building which is part of the National Operations Directorate.
And we are so determined, to fight all manner of crime,
even the broad daylight robberies that we see and the footage say, we can say that we are going all out, to make sure that we contain them.
Educative chit-chat from the expert's point of view.
No, there is. In fact, that rumor has been said about so many vaccines. People said the tetanus vaccine causes infertility, and we are trying to make our women infertile. No, it's not true.
On the Point of View with Bernard Avle, every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. only on City TV.
The Point of View is brought to you by Bell, Chill and Win. Bell, Chill and Win. Everyone is a winner. Bell Mixers. Bell Mixers. The taste of adventure. Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. Kel Charcoal. Happy smile. And Punto Technologies. Making you free to achieve.
Hi. Have you missed any business news this week?
Our appeal to the banks that it is not enough to show fat profits at the end of the year, publish them in the newspapers, and feel good.
Are you looking for a way to consume business news without getting lost in all of the technical language? Well, for our traders down here, all they care about is the fact that this could likely affect the cost of doing business.
We used to pay an average of $3,000 somewhere in November. Now it has shoot as much as $12,000 for a 40-footer container.
Business Weekly brings you all the top business stories of the week in an exciting manner.
Business Weekly, Sundays at 3 p.m. only on City TV.
Well, so, are you ready? Let's go.
This is the City Countdown, number 10.
I won't comport myself, I can't. I fall for you down flat. I fall for you down flat, yo.
Number 9.
Over me, over. Let time wings over. Oh, I'm anointed from the head to the toe, man, anointed.
Number 8.
Kind of love you go get you. Be better love you, no go regret you. Come on, baby, give me that thing, you know. Come on, baby, give me your heart, you know.
Number 7.
Of course I fucked up. Who never fucked up? Hands in the air. No hands. Still I can't believe. You know what I mean? I was young, what you expect from me? It is what it is.
Number 6.
Bring cross, I go bring my thoughts. On God, me, I promise. You go be the hour of the day.
Number 5.
That I'm a soldier. I'm a survivor.
Number 3.
If you don't get money, anything you say be funny. They are taking your babes away.
Number 2.
It's a Friday night, oh, hey. When we drop in this party, people got your lights on me. Stepping at the yard, oh, you for me. Everybody's watching movie.
Number 1.
Got me like a thief in the night, long jaw. But you know, say, all of my niggas, them ball. Nothing you go ever need at all. I join your Gina, get under. Taking it a break, at me, I know the rush, baby.
This is the City Countdown.
Welcome back to The Big Issue as we near the start of the MPP selection of new national officers at the Accra Sports Stadium, where we're providing live coverage. And just to wrap things up, I'll go back to the stadium where my colleagues Samiri Afe and Hansen Ajimana are on standby. They've been providing some analysis of all the various races that we've looked at. I just wanted to ask Sami a final question on just the overall hanging of politics that is on this, because there are undertones, as we all know, with regards to the Bawumia faction, the so-called Alan faction, the Akoto Osifie faction, when it comes to who also becomes flag bearer of the party. So I just want to get Samir's take on this. So Samir, if you can hear me, welcome back. Well, we are still waiting to be connected to Samir Rafi and Hansen Agyemang at the Accra Sports Stadium so that they can provide some insight for us. But like I said, we're doing the race for chairmanship where Stephen Ntim, George Kwabena Bankwaya-Boa, Stephen Asamoah Boateng are vying. General Secretary race that has Justin Kodua Frimpong, John Boyd, the incumbent, Idrisu Musa Superior, Ramsey Agyemang Prempeh, and Frederick Opare Ansah. For vice chairpersons, they have 10 persons who are vying for that position. Rita Talata Sobari and Michael Omari Wadie stand out as favorites, popularly called Chairman Wadie, while Nowosu Kenwood, Ismail Yahuza, Mark Jewels, Anan, Dankwa Smith Buti, Edmond Opompepra, Keston Akoming, Derek Kwekun Kansa, and Al-Haji Masaud Osman are hoping to cause an upset. The national organizer, like we said, Daniel Ni Kwate, Tatis Glover, and Henry Nana Boachi, aka Nana B, are the two leading candidates, with the outsiders being Bright Isilfi Kume, Seth Edweje, Eric Amwakuchum, and Nana Owusu Fojo. Of the four candidates vying for position of national youth organizer, I have Abanka Hussein Yakubu, Salam Mohammed Mustafa, Prince Kamal Guma, and Michael Osei Boateng, who is also hoping to enter that race. And then 7 candidates, are vying for the position of national Nasara coordinator, with the incumbent being Abdul Aziz Haruna Futa. He's facing a challenge from Haruna Maiga, Abdul Rahman Diallo, Isaka Mwazu Kunata, Awal Mohammed Suleiman Takbo, and Haruna Ishmael. The position of women's organizer is a 3-horse race. That's Kate Jimfua, Ellen Amadaku, and Hajia Saudata, who are in there. And then you have, for the position of national treasurer, Mary Posh Odro, who's hoping to beat Dr. Charles Dramina, Dr. Yusuf Tedam, and Collins Nunturi Nyama. And we're expecting almost 7,000 plus delegates to make these choices. We're expecting the President of the Republic to be there. We are told that he will make a speech. We are told the Vice President will also make a speech. The outgoing chairman of the party, Freddie Blay, is also expected to speak. There is an expectation that former President John Ejekun Kufuor will make an appearance. If he's so able to do so, he will make an address as well. And we are told that once everything is done, all the candidates will be given 5 minutes to address the conference, to make a last appeal to the delegates. Then the Electoral Commission will take over to run and oversee the elections and the counting, and then they will announce a winner. And City TV and City 97.3 FM will be there for all this. Let me see if I can catch up with my colleagues Samir Rafi and Hansen. But as you can see, the delegates seem to have settled down and engaged in conversations with one another ahead of the start. We are told that some members of parliament have already shown up, have other high-profile members of the party, but some of the delegates who are being housed in different hotels are yet to make an appearance. According to my colleague Samir Rafi, all the delegates from the regions were put in different hotels as a group, so they are all expected to be bussed to the venue, which is the Accra Sports Stadium, for this conference to take place. So it's one big get-together for the New Patriotic Party. Happens once every 4 years, and determines the political direction of the party and what will happen. Like I said, we are very interested in discovering who gets what and what it means, because all these things do have meanings for who eventually becomes also flag bearer of the party. There are a lot of things that are at play when these elections take place. So stay with us. We'll take another break. When we return, hopefully, the conference would have started. Okay, so it looks like my colleague Samiri Afe can now wrap up for us. Samiri Afe, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Godfred.
Okay, so just to wrap things up, let's look at Nasara finally, and then we will talk about the overall import of what will happen today. So for Nasara, we have the incumbent Abdul Aziz Haruna Futa, but he's facing a challenge from Haruna Maiga and 5 others. How did 7 people come to challenge Aziz Haruna Futa, who seems very popular?
The Nasara coordinator position has over the years become an attractive one. Since its formation, when you look at the individuals who've occupied the Nasara position, you talk of Alhaji Laku Laku, and then Alhaji Futa coming in, Alhaji Maiga coming in. It has over the years become a very attractive position within the MPP. Now the Nasara wing of the MPP is a special wing that looks at only the Zongo communities where the MPP is seeking to maximize votes. So over the years, the party puts a lot of resources at the disposal of the National Nasara Coordinator so that the MPP can get more votes from this particular community. So over the years, it's become an attractive one. No wonder we have this tall list of individuals who are more or less seeking to unseat Aziz. But Aziz is on the ground. Godfred, I'll be surprised if Aziz is not retained as the Nasara coordinator for the MPP. And if he's able to do that, he will be the first Nasara coordinator to seek re-election and win. All the Nasara coordinators since its inception have not won re-election. You talk of Kamaldeen. Kamaldeen in 2018 was the Nasara coordinator, and then he left that position to contest the National Youth Organizer, and he lost. That is when Aziz Futa came in. But before Kamaldeen came in, there was Alhaji Laku Laku. He won from Alhaji Maiga. So Laku Laku was seeking re-election. He failed in that bid, and then Kamaldeen unseated him. So Kamaldeen abandoned that position and went in for the National Youth Organizer, where he lost to Nanabi, and then Alhaji Aziz Futa came in. When Futa came to pick his nomination form, all 16 regional Nasara coordinators are those who came to pick the forms for him at the party headquarters. So it gives you a clear endorsement that the 16 regional Nasara coordinators are fully in support of what he has done so far. And so it will be very surprising to see him losing. And the Nasara ring is relatively a small one. So you are talking close to about 50, 60 delegates there. So you have the constituency Nasara coordinators. We have the regional Nasara coordinators, and then I think those are the former Nasara coordinators and the Nasara coordinators from the diaspora. So if you put it together, we have less than 300, because when you look at the constituency Nasara coordinators, that give you 275, and then the regional one will give you like almost 2 something. So in total, let's give ourselves in total, you are looking at, let's say, 300 or 350, which is relatively a small constituency within the Nasara wing of the party. So Futa getting the backing of 16 regional Nasara coordinators. Obviously, these 16 coordinators will shape their constituency Nasara coordinators in line to vote for Aziz. So I don't see any of the candidates posing a major threat to Aziz. I see Aziz winning this particular position hands down. And in Aziz's campaign, he goes to this campaign sometimes with the incumbent national organizer, Samia Oku. He works very closely with Samia Oku, who is the current coordinator for the current director general for the youth, for the National Lotteries Authority. and he's a likable candidate. A lot of people like Sammy Elku. So if you are campaigning with Sammy Elku, you obviously get the support of a lot of people. So for me personally, Godfred, I don't see Aziz losing this election. He's going to take it smoothly. There won't be any challenge to this particular position to Aziz Futa.
What about the? All right, Hansen, go ahead.
So when the 16 Nasara coordinators showed support for Haruna Futa, one of the candidates, Maiga, he did a press conference and raised concerns about this issue. He thought that in itself was divisive, because if 16 regional Nasara coordinators showed their support for one candidate and that candidate does not win, how then do they work with the other candidate? And that was his concern particularly. But he's also giving Futa a very good chase. One other person in that race is Awal Mohammed. And Awal Mohammed, we all know, prior to the 2016 election, he was a communication officer of the NDC in the Ashanti region. And he switched camp into the NPP. He had lots of following in the NDC that followed him into the NPP. A number of people in the NPP appreciated him for that switch, and a lot of people think that it helped in shaping up the sort of support and change regime that the NPP had in the Ashanti region among the Muslim community or within the Zangos. So Awal Mohammed coming in from the NDC, been in the NPP for, let's say, some 6 years now, and now is making a bid for National Nasara Coordinator. He's also giving Haruna Futa a good run for his money, and of course, but we know Haruna Futa, his sports background, he has a lot of support on that level and within the Zangos. And as Sami indicated, Samia Uku, who this wing falls under, has been openly campaigning for him. So even though that race is not tipped to be one of the hottest races to look out for, it is an interesting one because, again, I talked about Awal Mohammed. We usually hear of these reports, and recently, somewhere in one of the regions in the north, over 100 members of the PPP switched to the NDC. And in some areas, you see some members of the NDC switch to MPP and vice versa. But to get somebody switched and then now decide to take a position, it is not that new. We even have in the case of Freddie Blay, who was in the CPP, switched to the NPP, and now is the incumbent chairman of the party. And it will be interesting to look at what the delegates will be looking out for when voting really starts and counting begins.
Very interesting. Let's wrap this up with the women's organizer, three-horse race Kate Jemfua, Ellen Amadako, and Hajia Saudatu. Kate Jemfua, very popular. She's the incumbent. Looks like she will take this again.
Well, yes, 16 regional women organizers were in Accra to pick her form on her behalf and to submit same on her behalf. For the entire process, she only came in person for the vetting. It tells you the kind of support she had. However, her deputy, Hajia Saudatu Said, is giving her a very hot chase. And she's been a deputy for 8 years. And a lot of people think that as deputy, she's learned the processes of mobilization when it comes to the women wing of the NPP. And she's really, even though you can see the sort of direct support that Kejevua has among various women organizers across the regions and constituencies, it'll be very interesting to see what will happen, because at the end of the day, you get the point that a deputy competing directly with her boss, and we will wait to see what happens. But the member of parliament for Yendi is right here with us, Farouk Aliu Mahama. How are you, and what have you been monitoring so far?
Thank you very much. Good morning to your listeners, and good morning to Ghanaians, specifically the people of New Patriotic Party. I think today is a great day, as mandated by the constitution of the New Patriotic Party. It's just a renewal of faith between the party and the grassroots. Having had an MPP tradition, we started from the President of the Republic, the Fourth Republic, from the MPP side, President John Ejogum Kufuor, and my late father, the late Vice President Alhaji Aliu Mahama, who had brought the party after 30 years of attempting to be in power, and a continuation of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and our Vice President. So today the party is fortunate to have won in the first time with the Kufuor and Aliu Mahama, and we are privileged again to have President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia. The party is the main wing that brought us to power. So today we are trying to renew the mandate of the newly elected people who have been mandated to govern, and today is an indication of bringing all together, conglomerate, the whole region and the whole party, to recognize and choose a befitting leader for the chairman down to the women organizer and all other positions that
we'll come to the race, but have you seen the delegates from the northern region? Have you seen them?
I'm a constituent and I'm the leader of my constituency, Yendi. I was with them yesterday. I welcomed them, not only Yendi, but all constituencies in northern region 16, and my relationship with the people doesn't limit to only Yendi but across the country. So we were there to welcome all of them at the various centers. I think this morning we've been up doing, and we have not even slept, just to make sure that the people or the electors or the delegates, which I'm part of it, are comfortably ready to do the elections. Yes.
But what's keeping them waiting? It's been hours. We expected this to start somewhere around 9 a.m. but
I can't speak for the delegates, but I can speak for myself as a member of parliament. We've been here since morning.